On June 30th, 1989, in the quiet town of Seymour, Missouri, a typical day took a dark turn when 24-year-old Kelly Workman disappeared without a trace. She had been mowing the cemetery of a local church, but only half the job was finished when she vanished as the hours passed after sunset. Her family and local authorities grew increasingly worried and launched a search. Days went by with no clues until a chilling discovery was made a week later. On July 7th, miles away near Mark Twain National Forest, Kelly's body, in an advanced state of decay, was found in a creek. The community was shocked and horrified. What happened to Kelly Workman, and who could have committed such a heinous act on the afternoon of June 30th, 1989, around 3:30 p.m.? Kelly Workman headed to Pleasant Ridge Baptist Church Cemetery to mow the lawn, a routine task she often did after finishing her shift at a local store in Dogwood. However, by 5 p.m., rain started falling, so she went home, changed her blouse, and took care of her cattle. After the rain stopped, Kelly returned to the cemetery to finish her work. Her uncle saw her around 6:30 p.m. near the intersection of Missouri Highway 14 and Highway Z, which was only a mile and a half from her home. This was the last confirmed sighting of Kelly before she disappeared earlier that day. Kelly was her usual responsible self, ensuring everything at home was in order before heading out. Kelly was born on September 22nd, 1964, in Dogwood, Missouri. She lived with her parents and was responsible and always got home on time. But that day, hours passed, but Kelly was nowhere to be seen. Later that night, her parents made a chilling discovery. Kelly's mower had been left abandoned in the church lot, and the lawn seemed barely touched. Her car was found sitting in the gravel drive with the keys still in the ignition. The community, confused and shocked, rallied together and searched for her. Given that she had been tending to the cemetery without fail for 3 years already, her sudden disappearance appeared very unlikely the following day. Even more help arrived, with firefighters and a helicopter joining the search efforts. But the worst news came about a week later. On July 7th, 1989, a farmer and his son stumbled upon a heartbreaking sight: a fully clothed, decomposing body submerged in water. From the waist down, it was discovered about 10 mi away from the Baptist church in a creek near Mark Twain. National Forest and Christian County Police went to the scene and were horrified to find the body was in such a state that they could only identify it through dental records. And when the results of the test came in, they confirmed that it was indeed Kelly. She had become a victim of a terrible crime, but the cause of her death remained a mystery. Despite thorough inspection, the autopsy couldn't determine if she had been strangled or suffocated. They couldn't even determine if she had been sexually assaulted. They concluded that she hadn't been, since she had been found fully clothed. However, this reasoning didn't seem right to the people of the community or the family. Sadness and shock spread throughout the town. They wondered, how could something so terrible happen to someone so kind and quiet? The investigation into her death began, but physical leads were scarce, which left authorities puzzled. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, Callie's family held on to hope and even offered a substantial reward of $10,000 for any information, which led to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for her death. But days turned into weeks, and the truth remained unsolved then. A glimmer of hope appeared about 6 months after her murder, when Kelly's mother, Joan Workman, received a chilling call. An anonymous caller informed their home on the 30th of December and dropped a hint about seeing someone at the Workman house on the day of the incident. Joan couldn't shake the feeling that Kelly might have known her abductor and killer, considering her cautious nature around strangers, especially men. In August of 1990, the police, in a breakthrough, they found their first suspect, Leonard Dwight Banks from Seymour. When did you first know that Kelly and Workman had disappeared 11 o'clock that night? And what happened then? State trooper and sheriff over there pulled me over and asked me why I'd done him. That was the first question, yes. Police requested that Banks undergo a polygraph test regarding Kelly's murder, which he agreed to take. The examiner posed three crucial questions, and Banks denied any involvement. The results appeared to clear his name, and this sent investigators back to square one, grappling with the reality that Kelly's killer still roamed free. As the years passed after Kellyanne Workman's tragic disappearance and death, her family remained haunted by unanswered questions. Pam Workman, Kelly's sister, couldn't shake the feeling that Kelly may have stumbled upon something dangerous. Perhaps drugs or illicit money during her time at the cemetery where she worked. Or maybe she wasn't supposed to know Kelly had worked there for a couple of weekends before her abduction, which added to the mystery surrounding her demise then. In July of 1990, the spotlight turned to two brothers from Seymour in their 30s, Bobby Banks and Dwight Banks, who were previously cleared as suspects in 1990. Bobby had reportedly failed his polygraph test back in 1990, yet no charges against him. Dwight was an alcoholic, smoked marijuana, and was also famous for multiple petty crimes in the area. That's why the police questioned them directly about what they did with Kelly. And Dwight admitted to seeing Kelly just hours before her abduction at the dogwood store where she worked. However, he actively denied any involvement in her murder and claimed that he and Bobby were at home at the time of Kelly's disappearance for me to be cleared, and for Kellen murders to be tested and convicted. Of this, reports from 1990 surfaced, suggesting that Dwight may have taken drugs before passing a polygraph examination, despite their protest of innocent suspicion swirled around the Banks brothers. This left investigators confused with yet another layer of mystery. On June 9th, 1999, a significant development occurred in the investigation. The detectives received warrants to perform DNA testing on Dwight Banks and Reebelt, another suspect they had zeroed in on, in the hopes of connecting them to the cam. Despite these warrants, the lab results were never made public, and neither Banks nor Belt faced arrest or charges. In August of 1999, Belt, in an interview with The Citizen, expressed his willingness to cooperate with DNA testing in connection with Kelly's murder. He, just like Banks, admitted to seeing her on the day she was abducted at the dogwood store, shedding light on his potential involvement in the case. But these DNA tests came out clear and left the police with nothing but another dead end. On June 16th, 1999, Dwight Banks consented to a 15-question interview with Fred Spriggs of the Webster County Citizen. During the interview, Banks made a statement expressing his frustration and desire for closure. He said, "It's time to leave me alone or convict me." Then, on September 10th, 1999, New Douglas County Sheriff Gary Coop administered a voice stress test to Banks, the technique that analyzes shakiness or nervousness in their voice. The idea is that lying makes people stressed, and that stress shows up in how they talk. They probed him about Kelly's disappearance and death following the test. Coop reassured Banks and stated that he believed in Banks' innocence. Despite these assurances, the cloud of suspicion continued to loom over Banks as the years passed. The search for justice in Kelly Workman's case seemed to hit one roadblock after another. On the eve of the 11-year anniversary of Kelly's death in June of 2000, her mother, Joan Workman, voiced the family's growing frustration at the lack of progress in the investigation. In July of 20. Michelle Abriel, Kelly's cousin from Seymour, came forward with a startling claim. In an interview, she claimed to know the identity of Kelly's killer. It was Dwight Banks. This person aligned with the suspicions of both Joan Workman and Christian County Sheriff Steve Whitney. However, Whitney reportedly informed that Dwight Banks, who was previously considered a suspect, was not responsible for Kelly's murder, and the case went cold once again. On July 1st, 2009, the 20-year anniversary of Kelly's abduction and murder, despite the passage of time, the Sheriff's Department in Christian and Douglas counties stated that they had no new leads to report, but they never lost hope. Finally, on May 22nd, 2013, Professor Michael Barisics, a former prison ward, intern forensic professor, offered a glimmer of hope. The Drury University conducted a study on Kelly's murder, and they concluded that exhuming her body and reopening the investigation could lead to the resolution of the case and the prosecution of the perpetrators. Most importantly, the report also highlighted alleged negligence in evidence collection and investigative procedures by former officials, which suggested that the case could have been solved years ago in 1989 if proper protocols had been followed despite the setbacks and missed opportunities. The quest for justice for Kelly Workman continued with the hope that one day the truth would finally come to light. The investigation seemed stuck, and people were losing faith. They worried it would become another unsolved case. The weight of this fear pressed heavily on Kelly's family. Would she ever get the justice she deserved? In a stunning turn of events, after over 30 years, a long-awaited breakthrough finally emerged in the decades-old case of Kelly Ann Workman's murder. On February 20th of a significant development unfolded in the decades-old case. A Douglas County grand jury indicted three men, Baby Banks, Leonard, Dwight Bank, and Ray Belts, for her 1989 murder. The arrest came after new information surfaced linking the suspects to Kelly's Prosecuting attorney Matt Weatherman revealed that a tipster who was not previously considered a person of interest in the case provided crucial information. In the last couple of months, further details have not yet been revealed by the authorities. The charges against the three men include first-degree murder, first-degree assault, and first-degree kidnapping in connection with Kelly's abduction and subsequent death following their arrest. The Banks brothers and Belt were taken into custody and held at the Douglas County Jail in Ava, Missouri. Each of them is being held on a $250,000 cash bond. The community now awaits further developments in the legal proceedings, hopeful that the perpetrators will be brought to justice for their heinous crimes after 35 years. The long-awaited sentencing will hopefully bring some peace to Kelly's family and provide some long-awaited closure.